Welcome to PTGtv. This is your host, Antonio Hicks. On my next series episode of Westward Bound, a journey through the political, technological, and gaming landscape of the West Coast, I'm glad to have on Theo Hollingsworth, a writer, a producer based in Oakland, California. Theo has over 15 years of experience producing narrative films, documentaries, and web series. He works on the production team for Pixar Animation, yes, that Pixar, and in his downtime, he's an independent writer and producer with several award-winning films and web series under his belt. He's currently in post-production on his second season of his award-winning comedic web series, Sirius Lee, which is actually pretty funny, which is streaming on Quelly TV and on YouTube as well, too. So welcome on to the show, brother.
Awesome. Thank you so much, bro. Appreciate you having me.
So give us a little bit about yourself before I get into some deep questions.
Yeah.
Who is Theo?
Yeah, man. So yeah, man, I am like my bio said, I just literally updated it a bit today. I appreciate you referencing that. Yeah, man, I'm a filmmaker. Been doing it for like over 15 years now. I grew up, I went to high school in Michigan.
Word?
Yeah, man.
Outside of Michigan?
Outside of Detroit, Canton, Michigan. It's a suburb.
Okay, we're talking offline, but yeah, my kids they're from Saginaw, Michigan. Well, they grew up here, but I mean, my ex-wife, she's from Saginaw, Michigan.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, so Michigan was interesting. I went to a suburb. I went to high school out there. It was actually like 3 high schools on one big campus. It was like over 10,000 students. And they had a really robust like video production program. And so I got my feet wet in that in like the early 2000s, like 2003, 2004, joined that. And I just like, it exposed me to the world of like video editing. And I was like, yo, this is dope because, you know, I'm a writer, I'm a creative, but I come from a family of like engineers and folks with like, you know, technology backgrounds and stuff. So I was like, okay,
shout out to the engineers.
Way that I can like justify to my parents, like, yo, even though I'm a creative, look, I'm inside of the editing suite. This is computers. It's still got a technical angle to it. So that kind of got my feet wet. And I just like, I dove in, started editing whatever I could. And then that led me to, you know, my senior year. I was trying to look for like what college I want to go to. And, you know, my parents went to HBCU. So I was like, all right, let me see what these HBCUs are talking about. Had Howard on my radar, applied, got in, and majored in film production. So I started in film production at Howard University in 2005. Did 4 years there. Had a great time, learned a lot more about it. And yeah, I mean, it was cool. Like it's interesting because it's not necessarily like Howard Film is like a necessarily like a film school specifically. There's a lot of cinematographers.
Yeah, I wouldn't have thought about that.
Yeah, that came out of there during that time. I definitely felt like it had like an indie vibe. Like all my professors, like they were renowned Black indie filmmakers, you know, but wasn't a lot of folks that like went into the industry. So like I kind of feel like it kind of bred that like indie filmmaker vibe in me. And so like, you know, I after college, really it was like, I mean, I'm focused on making my own stuff, but this ain't going in a 9 to 5. And then I don't like the like whole like jumping from major film to major film and then having to look for like the next job like right after you're done or while you're in that. So I was like, all right, let me see what the technology industry is talking about. Because tech is big, you know. My girlfriend at the time, now wife, she had big dreams after college of like doing her own startup. And so she was like, yo, I'm moving to the Bay Area. I got this green smoothie company that would work really well out there. So I'm going to the Bay. And I was like, oh, I had a little job in tech at the time working for a video platform. And I was like, but there might be some more money, some more opportunities out there. So that kind of brought me to the Bay Area. That was in like 2013 when I got brought to the Bay Area. And I was just like, got into the tech scene, was working for streaming. Like it was like a video ad platform that's now owned by Adobe. And I just was like customer service, worked my way up, like technical support, really just kind of dabbled in this like online video ad industry.
Yeah.
Like shit, like I'm not using my film degree. These aren't creative jobs. I understand how technology works, but like this isn't giving me the like gratification I need as a creative and as a filmmaker. So Oakland is where I like really just started to build my film community and do a lot of independent projects. I did like a pilot for like a TV series that I wrote and produced. I started doing a lot of documentary work. That led to kind of my first official 9-to-5 in the video, like the creative industry. I got a job with this nonprofit in San Francisco called BayCat. It's called, it stands for the Bayview Center's Bayview Hunter Point. It's a long ass name, but like basically there's this Black neighborhood in San Francisco called the Bayview Hunters Point. And so this nonprofit called BayCat that was like Bayview Hunters Point Center for Arts and Technology is what BayCat stands for. And what they are is like it's a video production company, but also a training academy specifically targeted at training people underrepresented in the creative industry, in the film and TV industry, right? So it was like we had big clients. We had clients like the Golden State Warriors, but we also like worked on. We had like a youth training program, and then we also had like a young adult internship program. So my job was I like helped to produce. I edited for the studio, but also my main focus was running this young adult internship program. So I'd work with anywhere from like 12 to 15 young adult interns that were like all Black or brown or Asian or women, people of color, just people generally underrepresented in the industry. So I was helping them to learn their video production skills while also helping them to get their professional credentials together, learn how to get into the job market, get full-time jobs in the industry. And that was great. And I was still continuing to do independent stuff on the side. Ultimately, that's what led me to, like, after a few years there, the pandemic hit. That's what led me to get a job at Pixar. Pixar is also based, they're in Emeryville, which is like a small town surrounded by Oakland. And so I had a relationship with them through my time at BayCat. So that led me to BayCat. And along the way, like, so that's the full film journey that's what led me now. But underlying all of that, I continue to make my own independent projects, documentaries. The biggest project to date, which is probably the center of this conversation, is this like sci-fi musical comedy called Sirius Lee. Produced the first season of Sirius Lee in 2020. And I wrote, produced, starred, acted in it, crewed up with a lot of folks from BayCat. And then, that kind of took off, got some legs with it. And then now here I am, like 3 years later, fully immersed in the animation industry full time. I'm a department manager there. So I manage teams of artists. I manage schedules, budgets, people, just continuing in that trajectory now full time in the film industry, but also on the side, continuing to make these projects, and got an opportunity to make a second season of this web series, Sirius Lee. And this one is where I was like, all right, let me combine my experience in both live action, narrative filmmaking, and animation. So that's the long story. That's who Theo is.
So let's start back at the beginning.
Yeah.
So you went to school for film and production, but your family were like engineers. So how did they end up feeling about that?
Yeah. Supportive, surprisingly supportive. It's not that story of like, oh, like, no, you need to do this. Like, I think because like, my dad's a mechanical engineer. He's done his whole time at Ford Motor Company, or at all of the major automotive industries. My older brother's also an engineer, and my little brother now, he's a data scientist, right? So it's always been like, and they're also big sports heads, right? They like watch football all the time, and it just wasn't ever the trends that I was doing, right? It was like, all right, cool, enjoy football. I'm gonna go over here and watch The Simpsons. Like, all right, I can't really, like, I played a couple of years, but I'm pretty trash at it, right? But I'm doing spoken word poetry, right? I'm doing all these performance activities. I'm doing musical theater, just like all the creative stuff. And I'm keeping my grades tight. You feel me? Yeah. And my brothers, they didn't go to HBCU. I pick an HBCU to go to. So they're like, all right, cool. Like, maybe, maybe there was a little bit of trepidation because I was going from like DC, I was going from Michigan, suburbs of Michigan, to like DC.
Yeah.
I didn't grow up around Black people, so it's like, oh, like, and it's dangerous, and da da da. My older brother went to a predominantly white school. My little brother went to a predominantly white school. So I think there was just more trepidation around, like, yo, are you going to be able to fit in this? Than it was like, are you going to be able to pursue this professionally? You know, because also it's like, whatever, you know, most folks, it's like, whatever you like, do your little arts degree, but you know, you need to get a job. And most people aren't even using their major. So it's like, if it don't work out, like, and my dad would keep pushing that, right? Even when I was in film school, looking for internships, couldn't get an internship. Well, there's an internship program at Ford Motor Company in marketing. So I got an internship at Ford and was like, doing stuff. So they were always supportive of it, but it was because they had already had like they had seen the work ethic.
Yeah.
And knew that like there was going to be built-in backup plans, and it wasn't just like, nah, this or nothing, you know.
Yeah, and I asked it for a reason because I'm an engineer. I'm a network security engineer by trade, and I thought that I was gonna have the same thing out of both of my boys, but one of my oldest one, he started off his first 2 years going for film and production up in Saginaw and Delta, but they didn't have a huge production industry up there. And so when he left Delta, he went to Michigan State and he switched his degree up to marketing and with emphasis on digital advertising and stuff. So, and I'm like your parents. I'm just like, hey man, you know, it'd be nice if you was an engineer, but at the end of the day, I want you to be passionate about what you're doing. And when you go into work, I want you to love what you're doing. Don't get into the rat race the same as me. Cause I'm like, what I want to do programming. I want to be a programmer, and I eventually, like your wife, I want to have my own startup. But I end up going into network engineering, and I wish I had stuck with my first mindset to do programming. So knowing that, I didn't push the same thing on my boys. I was like, hey man, do what you love doing. As long as you're passionate about it and you can pay some bills, I don't care what you're doing. Like my oldest, he's going to, like I said, going to school for marketing with an emphasis on advertising. My youngest is going to SCAD Atlanta for graphic design work, and they both are doing exceptionally well. And my youngest is like, matter of fact, he's going to France next, the first part of this year for work study abroad. So nice. I don't have no complaints. And I never, like I said, I don't want to be like, I'm like your parents. I don't want to be one to hold them down and say, hey, you got to do what I did because, you know, it pays the bills. But no, long as you can take care of yourself and you love doing it and you have a smile on your face and you don't have to deal with the regular stress of like going into a regular 9 to 5 and you're not happy about it, that's what I want them to have.
Right. And it's like, you know, it's interesting too. I think about like, because now I feel like having a son, I might be susceptible to do like the opposite, right? Where it's like, I mean, he's a year and a half old. He's probably already tired of being at Pixar Studios. Any opportunity, he had his first birthday there. I'm immersing him in artists, on productions. Like already, he's been on my chest in a Baby Bjorn while I've been doing camera operation and just been on set for this stuff. So I'm like, in my head, I'm like, ooh, I'm breeding him to be an artist. You feel me? But like, I have to look at the example my parents set where it was like, no, like I can't exert, or I can't put this my aspirations and what I, you know, like what I know on you. Right. Because I already like mentally preparing myself for like, all right, he grew up in art. He's been exposed to artists. Watch him go out and be a data scientist, or watch him go out and, you know, do something like.
Well, he has a good mixture in his DNA. Because I mean, you're on one side of it, you got people like your younger brother who's a data scientist, and the other one the engineers, and then on your side, you got the creative side too with the art and production and stuff. So I mean, you don't know what he might do. I mean, he might do something unique and start with your wife, start his own company doing all this stuff. So I mean, hey, I'm excited to see what he turns into.
Yeah, I'm excited to see that too. But yeah, man, that I don't know. It's been good. They've been supportive. And you know, they don't know exactly, they still don't fully grasp their head around like what it is I'm doing.
No parent does. No parent. My dad taught me how to be an engineer. He taught me how to do like C# and Cobalt and stuff. And to this day, he don't know what the hell I do. And my mom definitely doesn't know what the hell I do. And it's like I have to, because my degree and stuff is in cybersecurity and computer science. And it's like I have to tell them about technology stuff. And my dad taught me about technology, and I'm still teaching him stuff. And I'm just like, so all parents are like that. So your transition over into San Francisco, how did they feel about that when you left from Michigan to San Francisco?
That transition, I don't think that it was too shocking. I was I had already been a couple of years out of college. I did do a short stint in New York. And then I transitioned back to DC, and then did some creative work out there, and then got into the tech thing. And it's just like, look, you don't got any kids. Like you're already like a flight at least away from us. So, like go ahead, do you. And like also like I got out there because I had a tech job. I got the job before I was out there. So I was like, yo, I'm going for this job. It's in the tech industry, and nobody in my family really ventured out west. So it was like, and it was an appropriate time to do it. And they love my girlfriend at the time, now wife, too. So they're like, oh, okay, you're not going out there alone. And also the Howard network is deep. So it was like, okay, cool. Like, he's gonna have some support out there. Yeah, man, it's been like 10 years now. They've came out a few times. They like it. I try to convince them, like, yeah, maybe you guys want to move, but I don't really
Now
think
that cost of living a little different now.
Yeah, that's the biggest part. That I can't. I mean, I think it's partially generationally, but then partially just like being in the Bay. They still understand. Like when I tell them, I'm like, yeah, my rent's like $3,000 a month, and they're like, what? That's
Woo!
like a mortgage. And I'm like,
It is a mortgage.
Yeah, that's a mortgage out west. But honestly, that's half a mortgage out. You know what I mean? If I want like a comfortable house, I'm gonna be paying $7,000 a month.
Yeah, y'all stuff out there is crazy when it comes to the cost of living.
Yes.
From gas to everything. Texas out there is extremely high. But I mean, it was the same thing in DC too. Like all those major heavily populated areas, the New York City, DC, Seattle, Washington, Atlanta's getting there now too, which pissed me off for all y'all implants coming to Atlanta. Atlanta's getting there too. And definitely out in the San Francisco area and LA and stuff. It's like cost of living is crazy.
Yes, it is. Yeah. And that might be, what breaks me, but I'm trying to stay here and really try to put this stamp on the Oakland film scene as much as I can, and hopefully try to help to support some initiatives to really like make this a new, hub for film production. So I'm trying. My wife is out here, so she's now like her green smoothie startup is now defunct. But like there was definitely some blessings in disguise from that, because like one of the vendors she was selling to her green smoothies is a black-owned grocery store in Oakland, in West Oakland as well, which is historically a food desert. And it's a cooperative now. So it's like she's still getting to do what was important to her, which is feed Black communities healthy food. An entrepreneur, but she has a team of owners that she's doing it with. So that's another reason why it's like, yo, we got to stay out here. Like she has got a physical location. We could, even during the pandemic, it was like, oh, we can work anywhere. I was like, no, she's in a grocery store. So like,
so has she applied for grants from the government for what she's doing?
Yeah, from the government, from other organizations. I love that about her, is like she came in, and I think she's raised in grants for the organization like over $500,000 in grants in her time.
Because they have a new one now. I was talking to some people about it because we were talking about Blacks getting in tech, and because it was a debate because it showed like the diversity from OpenAI when they posted a picture when they brought back Sam Altman, and the Black community was like, "Where's the diversity at?" And people was like, "Well, they do have some." And one of the brother was a dark skinned Indian guy, which is not to say it's not diverse, but they were thinking about it from the minority and the minority aspect of. So Latino was in Black Americans. But my point to say that was, they were saying, well, how can we work to get more Black people into the industry? I know, well, Black people out here. But I was like, but I know as far as the government goes, that because I know somebody that works with the Biden administration, and she helps towards getting the grants. They do have money allocated for like tech agriculture and Black tech and Black EV technology. Yep. So if you're a minority business and you into agriculture, like kind of what she's doing, they have like, I think they allocated $1 billion to go towards that. So if she hadn't looked at it, it's there. I'm like, and they don't have a lot of people applying for them because not a lot of people, Black people working in agriculture like this, especially tech agriculture.
Yeah, no, she has a radar out for all the money. So hopefully it's on the radar, but I'll definitely have to mention that because like, yeah, I mean, she's like, always looking for new sources. It is not an easy job. It's like as much as I complain about some of the like the day-to-day slog of like the film and animation industry, it's like, okay, imagine managing a business, but also having like homeless people come in and like being in the hood, and then people management and trying to like train employees who maybe don't even have a college degree or even like much educate, like workforce training. So it's like, oh, this is like it's like being a business owner mixed with being like social worker. A lot of times I'm just like,
Yeah.
oh, okay. Like, never mind. I won't complain about my cartoon work.
So in your experience, so do you think people have to go to school for film and productions to do what you're doing?
Yeah, that's a good question. No. Like, short answer, no. I mean, I think that there's a lot of industries you could say that with now. I would say that the benefits of it still are building your film community.
Okay.
Like in understanding theory. If you're that type of learner, it would probably have been hard for me to not go to film school and like just rely on, I mean, aging myself, YouTube was a thing my sophomore year of college.
Or YouTube didn't exist when I was in school, so I mean, you good.
Like,
You good.
yeah, Instagram, like all the like creators that are out now, like that didn't exist, so it would have been way hard back in the early 2000s. Now, like, I mean, like if you really don't want, like, I just feel like there's a lot of online resources that can give you a lot of the theory, that can give you a lot of the practical training. You could save a lot of that tuition money and housing money on the software that you need, which is like a lot of it's free out there. But it's like, look, if you can get, I mean, depending on what you want to do, I mean, iPhones didn't even exist till my like sophomore, junior year, right? So like, yeah, so it's like if you can get an iPhone, if you can get access to Adobe Creative Cloud, and you can get access to YouTube, and you are resilient enough to find the other community of creatives that can kind of teach and learn with each other, I think you probably go it without the whole film degree. But like, yeah, I think it still takes that level of discipline, to really like put that time in. And yeah, so I don't think it's necessary. I don't know, like I have my degree on my resume and stuff, but even at where I work now, even my previous jobs, are they checking, like, are they calling Howard University, like, did he actually, what did he do? Like, I don't know if they're doing that, you know what I mean? Like, and most of the stuff that helped me to get a job now is stuff that I've done like after college. But I feel like the biggest advantageous component of me was building that early film community, getting that work in, because I'm also the type of person, especially early on in my career, I was like, well, if I'm doing it because it's going to be a TV show, it's going to be a movie. I'm not doing these exercises or getting the practice in, getting my reps in by doing like a school project, you know what I mean? So it's like thing of focused, like, all right, now you guys are going to break off into teams, you're going to do a short film, like having somebody to kind of like teach and give us assignments like that was a good way for me to learn. So I think there's definitely advantages, but man, I've seen people that came during that are the same age as me, whose careers have far surpassed mine in the film and TV industry, and they didn't go to film school. You know what I mean? Like they surrounded themselves with the community and got the learning and figured out what their skill set in it was.
Yeah, that's what I like about y'all creatives, because even as technical as I am, it's like when it comes to building stuff out and actually having that concept and design and making it look good, I don't have that shit at all. And it's like my kid, my youngest son, I used to draw. He gets that from me and like my side of the family. And it's like I don't even draw as much as I used to anymore. But he's taking that and developing. He writes his own manga and everything though. So I love the way, creatives like you all, like how your mind works, because you don't necessarily need that. Like you just said, that formal education, it helps because it helps with foundational skills. But like you said, at the end of the day, if you can get that same thing from looking at doing your own research and stuff online, I mean, almost like a developer. I mean, you don't have to necessarily go to school to be a programmer. As long as you understand the foundational skills behind like computer science and things of that nature, and you learn how to code, you can pretty much build your own stuff and go get a job anywhere.
Right.
Same as in film.
Yep. Exactly.
So what was that like for you that now that you're out there, you're starting to film your own series? Like, how did you actually start like actually working for somebody else in the 9-to-5 doing film and production?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it was still eye-opening for me doing first at Baycat was like maybe 15 to 20 employees, so it was small. It was but I got to learn some practices that I needed, because it was like, my shit is not organized as this, right? So everything from like, all right, this is a call sheet, and I've seen call sheets before, but I maybe would use them. Sometimes I wouldn't, but then I was like, nah, this is a call sheet. This is everything that you need to have inside of the call sheet. This is why it's important to have that call sheet. And this is the role that's specifically putting the call sheet together, doing all the logistical work, right? So it was just like, it was eye-opening to me. I was like, I always in my head, I was like, I'm a one-man band. Why do I need a production coordinator? Why do I need a producer who's not even touching the camera? Then we have camera operators who are like, they're just focused on the camera. They're just focused on lights. They're just focused on audio. Like, I can do everything myself. And then going to like Baycat, I was like, nah, like you need these roles, because if you start to think that you can do it all, the quality is going to suffer because of that. So I was like, once I got that, I started to apply that to my indie stuff. So that was great. And then transition into Pixar. I mean, that's a whole new world. And it's just like my entry point was like, I was managing a storyboard team. And I'd never worked with storyboard artists before. And it was like eye-opening to me, because it's just like, yo, like, especially in animation, we don't have time to waste money animating something for it to not work. We got to just work with a team of storyboard artists, draw it out,
Right.
And so that's been great for me. Is like, all right, everything. I'm big on, being in tech and understanding how startups go. Like, I always use that term MVP, minimum viable product. And I'm like, okay, like there's always with the Baycat, the minimum viable product with a pitch deck.
Right.
And with Pixar, I mean, they start inside of pitch decks and scripts as well. But like whenever you're really starting to get the story together, that minimum viable product is the storyboard. So I'm just like, okay, so it's like, it's always like when I'm as an indie maker, I have these ideas in mind, but it's just good to see them even at a large scale, continue to apply those things, but then have the added benefit of extra support. So it's not just one man or two man banding it. You have whole teams dedicated to that. That's their whole job. I think the thing that's been a little like, I think it's been a little like, okay, I'm in the film industry now, but I'm in production management. And honestly, most of my colleagues aren't necessarily, they don't even want to consider themselves part of the creative, right? They're the guide rails keeping the creative in order, right? So they're inside of directed reviews, they're inside of those reviews, but they're quiet. They're taking notes. They're figuring out what the next meeting is going to be after that. They're thinking full on logistics, whereas I'm like, oh, I don't like that story point. What if you do this, and this? And so that's a little bit jarring, because it's just like, realize once you get into the film industry, are you actually a part of the creative part of the film industry, right? That's where I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I'm another step in, but if I'm trying to get over to the creative, I still got more, I got some more moves to make, and I got some more proof that I got to show that I'm a creative within it. So that's one thing that can be very like tricky, especially for up and coming filmmakers that like get their first on-set thing. They're like, yo, I'm about to help make this movie. I mean, yeah, you are, in the fact that you're going to be driving out to get food for the creatives. You're helping to make the movie by keeping the creatives sustained.
Well, it is, because to go back to what we were talking about a minute ago, like my wife, she went to school for, I think, business. She went to school for a business administration, but then she ended up getting a certification in supply chain. So she worked in supply chain, even though she had taken some acting jobs, because she wanted to get in film first, but kind of like your parents, she wanted to have something to sustain her. But her coming back into film now, she got trained by somebody else on how to be a script supervisor, and that's how she got her foot in the door. And it's like, you're not part of the creative team, but goddamn, they make a lot of money. It's stressful work. Like what you do too, it's stressful work, but you get paid for it.
Yeah.
And you don't have to have any form of education. It's just you gotta. But I mean, she's not a part of that. Actually, I think she could, because she gets to change the script up every now and then.
Oh, okay. Nice. Yeah, I know she probably conforms the scripts a lot. Yeah. And then it kind of just depends on like the team, the directing team, the creative team that you're working with, right? Some directors are very like, thank you, have a role. And then there are directors that are like, what are your thoughts on that? You know, especially if you can find yourself in the room as a script supervisor and you offer something that's like, maybe you make up a different cultural makeup than the rest of the creative team, right? Like, I feel like, you know, I in my experience, I've seen a lot of female script supervisors. In my experience, I've seen a lot of predominantly or all male creative teams. So then it's like, all right, y'all, you're going to have some female characters in this. Like, you're going to need to have some different perspectives. How does that sound? You know, so it's like, yeah, you do. Hopefully you get an opportunity to like flex some of that creative, give some of that creative input, and be a voice in the room as well. But it's also like very dependent upon what team you're working with, which I think is probably the most important thing that I've learned about all of the jobs that I've had in the industry is like, honestly, like I can be whatever I can have a great story, but if the creative team and the production team is awful people, I'm good. Versus I'd rather work on something where it's like, hey, it's a mid story, but I love the team that I work with, you know, like you're going to be spending lots and lots of hours with them. So like, you know, you got to have something to sustain you more than like, oh man, this thing's going to be great when it's out. But I have ulcers in my stomach because I'm like afraid to work with these people. And I'm like not excited to go in.
Now with you, well, because you work for Pixar beforehand. Now, were you part of a union when you was working with what is Baycat?
No, not at all. I've never been part of a union. With Baycat, it was like, I mean, yeah, they just saw my website, they saw my credentials, and they were looking for somebody it's like a teaching artist kind of role, right? Like, I have video editing skills, but I've never had a full-time job as an editor. You know, I've had producing skills, but I'm not a part of the PGA because none of my stuff would really qualify me to be a part of those things. I'm working my way towards maybe getting into like a producers guild. But like, I mean, a lot of my stuff is production management, and there honestly isn't like, unless you get to that producers level, there's not a lot of unions for like production management folks, production coordinators, PAs, things like that. So
I was always curious about it because I'm like, I hear unions everywhere when it comes to film and production. I'm like, so do they have them for like everybody? Because one of my neighbors down the street, he works in film. He's a DP. And I'm like, God damn, I was like, y'all are everywhere around here. And he's not a part of a union. Yeah, he's not.
Yeah, nah. Yeah, I mean, it helps, especially when you become a DP. Script writers have unions for sure. Like writers have unions. I think that for me, I've been more focused on getting full-time work inside of the creative industry up to this point. I might be hitting that juncture where it's like, all right, I'm an independent agent. I'm jumping from job to job. So whenever I'm like looking to become like an independent producer, I think it is going to be helpful to be a part of a producers guild or something, because that's going to be like rather like you don't see the types of jobs that I'm looking for on career, on what is it, Indeed.com or
LinkedIn.
On LinkedIn or something. You actually have to be a part of those networks, and you hear about those opportunities, and you get referred from your fellow producers. So yeah, I'm getting to that point now where it's like, okay, if I want to do something, if I want to be my own free agent producer, it's going to really be valuable for me to be a part of these unions.
So how is it working at Pixar Animation?
Yeah, I mean, it's great. It's very educational, really supportive of creative projects. Will even allow you to kind of like do your own independent shorts or other creative things. They have a great like they call it Pixar University, where they bring in filmmakers. They'll do screenings, they'll do Q&As with them, but also even if you like want to learn how to play the guitar, or you want to learn how to sculpt, or you want to learn a new technical skill. They help to host classes like that. Yeah, so like it's been really great, like to help me to kind of continue to cultivate my skills and continue to build my filmmaker community. Yeah, so it's been good. Then like, I mean, and the campus is dope. Like, love working at the campus. Like I'm, I started during the pandemic. The first 6 months there, I never got to step foot in the studio, but once I did, I was like, oh, I might not be working from home no more, like, because I live 2 miles away from there.
Oh shucks, yeah.
Yeah.
So you don't have much of a commute.
Yeah, no, I bike to work. And they got a pool, they got a gym, they got free coffee. It's not like the big tech startups, so they have like free food all day, but they have like subsidized food and like, yeah, it's been great. Really great working environment, great benefits, and kind of unique in the landscape of like film studios, and that like they're like most of the folks are like full time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, all right, we're wrapping up this project. What are some of the projects coming down the pipeline that you're interested in? Let's see how we can get you casted on the next show. So that's been great to like not have to be like people working in the film industry, but not necessarily have to be constantly on the grind looking for that next source of income.
Now, how would you say, what was the difficulty of you getting inside of there? Because everybody has their like their ideal company they would love to work for. Like a lot of people, especially in the tech industry, want to work for some of the big, Apples, Googles, Meta, and stuff like that. What would it be to get into Pixar?
Yeah, I mean, I think that varies like from person to person. To be honest, I didn't really like ever have Pixar on my purview. Like I knew they were there, and I was like, man, that'd be dope to work there. But I can't draw. I have no experience in animation. So I didn't really think it was a thing, right? But then the Pixar was supportive of like the internship program I was leading, and I was able to take my interns on tours of the campus, and the hosts of the tours were part of the university recruiting team. So, like during the pandemic, just not really sure about the job security of a nonprofit. I reached out to one of them and I asked, like, hey, like, I can't afford entry level stuff. But if there's any more mid level roles that are production related that don't require like actual art like animation stuff, like let me know. And she was like, yeah. And then I applied, and then I had a great interview with a few folks, and yeah, it worked out. So like I would say that it's going to definitely be different if you're looking to be like a creative role there. A lot of those times roles come through the internship program. They don't really have as many roles in production or internship programs in production management. It's also based on timing, so I just happened to it was at a nice time where they were looking to beef up their production management teams to support some projects. And so yeah, like I think it's just a mix of timing, and I like with any job, it helps to have some personal relationships with folks. So because they're filtering out thousands of resumes, and the ones that are recommended but directly from current employees, that helps you to at least get that initial interview.
Okay, that's good to know. So that's good to know. So now moving on from what you're doing in your job, let's look at what you're doing outside of your regular 9 to 5. Who is Sirius Lee?
Yeah.
Who the hell is Sirius Lee?
Yeah.
And then would you say being part of Sirius Lee, did you get a lot of influence from like black exploitation old films, like the old Dolomites? If you're old enough to remember Dolomite.
Yeah. I remember Dolomite. So Sirius Lee is this character that I created. He's a quantum physicist. The martial arts expert. And he's an electro funk rapper. His era is the 1980s. I've always described him as this combination of like Doc Brown from Back to the Future meets Mr. T, right? So he's like this very like,
I can see that.
Yeah, scientific dude, but also like this personality. And he breaks into rap songs a lot, and he's like the first season of this web series, the full title is Sirius Lee, the Problematic Time Transplant.
Mm-hmm.
Because he carries with him, being like a character from the 80s, he carries with him a lot of like 80s tropes, a lot of like kind of problematic or toxic male tropes in particular, a bit of a chauvinist at times, like really into like whole milk and like just like like a
I know he
weird,
got bubble guts.
yeah, you know what I mean, just like all of these tropes, but machismo kind of thing, like
Right.
big earrings. So and he breaks into rap and stuff. Like, so he's like this music dude too. So Sirius, like I came up with this concept of Sirius Lee and this character for a couple reasons. First, it's like I love time travel. I love Back to the Future, and I wanted to do something that was like a Black Back to the Future. I was doing this with an indie budget. I knew it was going to be a lot easier to achieve bringing one character from the past to the present,
right?
And then costumes and stuff for everybody else. And so that's what like kind of motivated this. Was like trying to do this time travel thing. It's like, all right, who would time travel? What would be a funny era that they would time travel from, where they would land here and everything would be completely different, like his heroes are like Bill Cosby and OJ Simpson, right? Because they had completely different like reputations during the 80s. So that's who Sirius Lee is. And honestly, it's like, as I've written it out and as I look back on the first season now, I'm like, okay, so this character is actually like an amalgamation of a few different characters. I think my dad is a big influence on this character. My dad grew up in Hollis, Queens, like like late 70s, early 80s. He is like, he went to school and knew like freaking Run DMC and like, and he's just a big personality, right? He moves his family to Tennessee, all white community, where I live in elementary school. Like, yeah, that's another part of the journey. I lived.
Yeah, I was like, you left that out because I was like, y'all went from New York to Tennessee.
Yeah, we went from New York to Tennessee. When I was 3, I was there for like 10 years as a kid, but we were the only like Black family, and he did not shy away from being that big personality. He's a dresser, he's got crazy clothes, and he's kind of like, I don't know, I feel like a lot of old Black men are kind of hoarders these days too. They don't want to throw away any of their stuff. So I knew that this was going to be a character that, like, when it came to costumes, let me go back home, let me raid Pops's closets, let me get some fly fits from it.
Wait. So the costumes he has, that came from your dad's closet?
A mix. Some of it was my dad's closet. Some of it was like a friend who like has like a clothing, like a vintage clothing company, and she donated some stuff. So it was a mix of both. But yeah, like, so that's kind of like, I mean, and also like, especially as I started to like being in the Bay, being in the time of the Me Too movement, having conversations with my dad, hearing him defend Bill Cosby at times, like hearing some of this, it's like, okay, like, how do I like not be lecturing my dad, but how do I expose him to like maybe some of his like old school ways of thinking, that may be considered problematic in this era. So I would say that he's been a big inspiration for this character. I mean, like me as being a writer and a performer, I like the rap song part of it just kind of like came into it. Like, I wrote one kind of cheesy song because I saw like Mr. T had like a really weird rap career, and had a couple of really cheesy rap songs. So I was like, how could I add that in? I'm like an aging rapper, like, but I'm like, I feel like it's kind of weird to be like, oh, I'm an indie rapper, and I'm like in my like late 30s now and stuff. So I was like, all right, well, I can definitely write cheesy 80s raps, you know what I mean? And if I put it in the context of the comedy thing, nobody's like bars, you know what I mean? Like, so I was able to like kind of incorporate that in. The martial arts component, I just felt like that. I just wanted to throw something else on. like I just felt like
it's a good thing, because like I said, that's what you got a Dolomite, you got a Pootie Tang. I don't know if you've seen Pootie Tang. So that's a good thing to add on to it, because I mean, it adds that whole comedic humor with it. Because I mean, why wouldn't he know how to fight?
Exactly. And then like Also, I don't feel like enough people talk about Black Dynamite. Like Black Dynamite, the
That's
live action
fun.
series was just great. I mean, it was like a parody of blaxploitation films.
Right.
And that's like I didn't grow up watching blaxploitation films, but I knew of them. My dad had like Superfly and all that shit on. So but like Black Dynamite was like it allowed me to understand the format for blaxploitation films. And it also just played on that trope of like they always just know how to fight. They always know who or whatever. So I was like, we're gonna give him some nunchucks, we're gonna give him a couple of moves. And so yeah, all of that stuff from like my dad's era that influenced him, the stuff from my era that was parodies of stuff from my dad's era, like I kind of all just like merged that together and created this character who like like now exists as this goofy ass rapper.
Now, because you're a filmmaker and you're a writer, in your opinion, what is people's fascination with the 80s? Like, if you notice, like, especially like cartoons and stuff, people have a strong fascination with the 80s. And I was like, bro, you was just a sperm cell. You didn't even really even exist. It's like, but you focus on that time period.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that people's fascination with previous eras is really just, it's more of a like, one, the 80s is just like, it's bright, it's vibrant, it was big, it was loud, right?
Yeah.
And so it's all, you know, you can see sometimes it's kind of, they get mixed together. It's like, was that made in the 80s or is that just something parody from the 80s? Like, it's just like, I'd wear this vaporwave shirt, like that all kind of started to come back. But a lot of the stuff that is like timepieces that are made from the 80s were made in the like early 2000s and 90s by creatives and writers who that was their time period, you know, like, so that like that was, they go back to that time because they do remember that more vividly. And I realize now, and as I was doing it, I was like, oh shit, like I was born in 1987, right? So I am an 80s baby, but it was like 3 years. You know, a lot of that is like my dad's era that I'm kind of harking back to. But as I wrote it and as I was starting to produce it in costumes, I was like, oh shit, I should have made this 90s. Because I'm a 90s kid. And like,
that's why I say that, because like you see a lot of styles coming back. It's from the 70s and it's 80s. And I haven't seen anything from the 90s yet. Like nobody goes back to the 90s.
I will challenge you. I'll challenge you to start looking, because I'm like starting to peep more and more 90s period pieces. So a solid example from Pixar, the movie Turning Red, is about like this Asian girl from Canada who turns into a red panda. It's a period piece and it's placed in the 90s. Why? Because she grew up in the 90s.
Is it the 90s?
Yeah.
I saw that. I'm like, is it the 90s?
Yeah, that's a period piece from the 90s. That's why there's like Tamagotchis in it and shit like that. Like that's
the little handheld. Yeah, I do remember that.
There's like this movie called The Whackness, which I loved, which is another like 90s period piece. I'm seeing more and more of that becoming the new 80s, right? Like, because living through it, I was like, the 90s was whack. Like, I wish it was like the 80s. But now I'm like, yo, the 90s had its own vibe too. And honestly, like, I'm mixing 80s and 90s, right? I realized, because Sirius Lee has this high top, which I'm like, yeah, the high top, you know, kid and play.
That's 90s though.
Exactly. Like after I committed to this high top for this character, I was like, shit, like, all right, well, Sirius Lee is fast forward. So he was doing the high top in the 80s before.
Well, I mean, they had the what was it called?
The Gumby?
Yeah, with the S curl and stuff in there, and they had the part. So I mean, that is still technically part of the 80s.
It's at that transition, right? Yeah. It's like in that transitional period. Like some of it started in the late 80s, right? Yeah. Like even Sirius Lee has his flip up glasses, which clearly I got from Different World.
Different World, yeah.
Wait. But it's like, yeah, and I remember watching Different World and loving those glasses. 90s, bro.
That's 90s,
like, like he's wearing cross colors in it. So like I'm glad nobody's really picked at it. Like I've only had one person like pick at it, like, bro, like most of this stuff is like 90s references. But like I think the thing that's big from the 80s that I loved, and it's like late 70s, 80s, which I wish would come back in some level, is this electro funk hip hop scene. Like
it is coming back.
You feel like it's coming back? Cool.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
It's
Like
coming.
big costumes, like weird Afro-futuristic kind of themes.
Yeah,
That's what I
so
was loving about the 80s.
I think it's coming back in the aspect of like cosplaying.
Mm-hmm.
Like especially in like in our community now, which while I'm all of us nerds out there that watch anime and stuff, we're not getting picked on no more because now it's become popular, more mainstream. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you're starting to see a lot more of that now. Like even in like they have this restaurant here, like every Monday they do like a retro gaming type night. But yeah, people come in there in costume and everything.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I feel like it is coming back, but it's been rebranded as Afrofuturism. Like
Okay.
that's the new like phrase, right? And as I was making first part of Sirius Lee, Afrofuturism was kind of on the like rises, but like, yeah, if you go back, I'm trying to think of some artists like uh from that era, like
I
it's
mean, Earth,
like,
you had Earth, Wind, and Fire because they were
yeah,
more future. They did a lot more futuristic stuff and these big performances coming down in spaceships and things.
exactly. And George Clinton and
Yep.
Funk, like
Yeah.
yeah, like that I was like, yo, this is like such a cool thing that's now fitting, like it's becoming hip again. But
Mm-hmm.
people don't generally like outside of our communities, they're not familiar with like that weird era of electro funk that was happening in the late 70s and 80s.
The parents are. It's just not.
Yeah,
It's not making it down to the kids
yeah, yeah. So
because
yeah, I mean,
especially when we start talking about like fashion and stuff, and I mean especially when you see in our community, like you wear anything tight fitting or something that seems like it's flamboyant, they automatically want to categorize you and put you in a different box. And I was like, hey man, you don't have to go back but like 15 but 20 years and they were
right,
wearing that, and then I mean they had eyeliner on and everything
right, right.
and nobody
Nobody,
questioned it.
yeah, and like, yeah, but now it's like, yeah, it can kind of, if not contextualized right, it comes off as like, oh, like, what's this weird stuff? Everything is like, you
Right.
know, yeah, I don't know. I like that big stuff, and so I wanted to incorporate that. So, yeah, man. So that's how I got to the 80s slash 90s kind of mashup with this character and the music. It just kind of helped me to like write music for it, and yeah, it's been a fun journey. So yeah, that was season one, and it was all time travel, and all live action, and yeah, then I got
How
an
has the community been like? How do they feel towards it, or are you even paying attention to numbers, or you just producing to produce because it's a passion project and it's what you love doing?
yeah. I every time that I have a screening, people love it.
Uh-huh.
I've had a lot of them that end up being around Halloween and stuff, so it's a good time for people to come dressed up, do 80s nights, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not from Oakland originally. I've been out here for a decade now, but like for me, it's been really important to just put Oakland on and showcase it and talk about some of the real shit that we're like experiencing out here.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think people are like gravitating towards it. I haven't really been looking at the numbers. Like it's not on YouTube. You can only stream it on like certain platforms. The first season's on predominantly it's on Quelly TV right now, which is a Black-owned streaming platform. And
Yeah.
I get a little bit of revenue from it. It's nice. It's not my full-time job yet, but
Yeah.
it's been a passion project. And I think I'm always in that phase of like, man, this project is going to get me to the next thing, so I put it up on my website, I promote it, I share it with people, I try to have screenings just so that again people can start to see me as a creative, and doing something that's a little bit different from what's normal for like the like for Black content creators out here, which I feel like it's been very much like kind of more it's a little bit more like kind of romantic comedy kind of stuff. I see a lot of like the Insecure kind of vibes, a lot of like
Yeah.
relationship stuff, and I'm like, I love to watch that type of content, but if I'm going to do
I
some
don't.
content to be like like I
I
want
like
to be,
sci-fi stuff.
yeah, and that's the thing is like, and now is the time to do it because it's like finally like Black nerds and stuff is like are being
Mm-hmm.
recognized and their content is being made on a bigger scale.
And that's why I
So
love Keenan because he's making all those like the horror movies and stuff that we don't traditionally have.
You talking about Jordan Peele?
No, not Keenan. Yeah, Jordan Peele. What am I talking about? Yeah, Jordan Peele.
Oh
Right.
yeah.
And it's like now, because even Tyler Perry had made one too. So I'm like, I want to see more of that because I'm tired of the love stories. I'm tired of people being lawyers and doctors and stuff. Okay, though all those are great stories that's been told countless number of times. Can we get into space? Because if you look at it, we don't exist in the future. If you look at everybody else, it might be one or two of us. We don't necessarily exist in the future. And I can't get mad at it because I mean it's their production. So I'm not gonna scream for diversity on somebody else's on their set. That's all I'm like, I think we should be making our own. And I'm even when it comes to like black animation, I'm starting to see a lot more black anime coming up now than I did before. Because people were saying, well, Japan animation is cool, but can we get some more black people? And I'm like, well, we got enough artists. I'm like, we can just really start producing our own. So I've seen people start producing their own work. Yeah. So I mean, kudos to you for doing it. Because I mean, I want to see more sci-fi futuristic stuff.
Thank you, man. Yeah, I'm hoping we can, make a big splash with the second half of the season and just continue to be a part of that. I don't know if this show in its current form is going to be it, but like I think it's like a proof of concept and like a way to kind of expose people to like my sensibilities and my humor and my interests. And I think there's a lot more of this stuff coming up.
So how did you get involved with Quelly TV?
Yeah, Quelly TV first season, I was looking for some avenues to distribute it. And I reached out to them like through their form online. They responded quickly. They were into it. The timing worked out well too because they had at the time been partnering with the comedian Lil Rel, who was like helping to curate a list of comedic content. So it was selected to be a part of like that batch of content. It was like curated by Lil Rel. So yeah, I mean, it was just really kind of like a cold email or cold form submission, and the timing worked. And so the founder, her name's Deshauna Spencer. She's been really supportive. We've continued to chat throughout. I got it up on her site. I produced a little documentary about my wife's grocery store that also is on there. And then I was looking to because I self-funded the first season. I was like, look, I can't keep doing this. But I have an idea for a second half of the season, but I need to get some funding to do it. And so I partnered with her, pitched the second season. And yeah, she agreed to a budget, which was what I was able to use to produce this season.
Okay. So have you thought about going to bigger streaming platforms?
Well, I can't with this second season because it's exclusively on Quelly TV, their content. Right. Yeah, I mean, I think I want to help. Like, I hope that both of our stars can rise together, and I want to help to continue to push Quelly TV as a platform. But also, I'm I'm a free agent whenever it comes to new stuff, and I feel like this is a stepping stone. It was like, oh shit, I can get some nice funding by putting a pitch deck together and coming up with some scripts. Okay, cool. That's it on a small scale. Now I'm like, all right, I'm about to be a pitch machine, right? So I have other ideas for other series that kind of are in that vein. I feel like all of them are gonna have Black characters. All of them really, I want them to take place in Oakland. All of them are gonna be comedic. And it'll be a mix of animation stuff, live action stuff. But that's really where I'm at now. I'm still producing Sirius Lee because I only released 5 episodes. I have 5 more to go. So I'm still producing that for Quelly TV. But simultaneously, I'm working on putting together some more pitch decks and reaching out to larger streaming platforms and networks to see what else I can get greenlit.
Because it's almost like it was Black Jesus. Where was that based out of? I feel like that was California too.
Yeah, that was based in LA.
Okay.
I love Black Jesus. And that was honestly another one of the inspirations was because it was this is a live action short form series that's on Adult Swim. Yes. It's not even animated. And I was oh yeah, I want to do something like this. I guess you don't have to be animation solely to be on Adult Swim. So that's why I kind of made like the first season. It's all consolidated into one large episode or one large short film, I guess, on Quelly TV, but it's like 10 micro episodes. They're all like 5 to 6 minutes each.
It's a good starting point too. I mean, because that's where I can't say that's where he started from, but that's where my first introduction to Tyler the Creator was from. Adult Swim.
Oh, okay. With Tyler the Creator was on Black Jesus?
No. He had a show on Adult Swim.
Oh yeah. You talking about the Jellies?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I tell you all the time. I was like, he didn't start off rapping. I was like, he had a little show on Cartoon Network, and I was like, it was Adult Swim, but still part of Cartoon Network. But I'm like, it was good. It was funny. I mean, it was late night, so you had to be up late to watch it. But I was like, it was just as weird as he is. So
yeah, it was great. Yeah, I love what Adult Swim is like. Honestly, like until recent, I was like, yo, I gotta get on Adult Swim because like there's Fox with The Simpsons and stuff. There's Comedy Central, South Park, but then I was seeing all of this adult animation stuff on Adult Swim, and I was like, yo, I gotta get there, right? But like, and I say as of recent, like I still love and would love to work with Adult Swim in some capacity, but Netflix has got a chokehold on the adult animation scene right now. They have,
I love Netflix, and I ain't got no beef for Amazon on the rest of them, but Netflix is doing it.
Yeah. So I'm loving to see like more of this, right? Like I gotta be honest, like I feel like I gotta keep it a secret being in animation and being a Pixar, but I'm like, I don't know nothing about anime. But
you don't know nothing about anime?
I mean,
nothing?
I'm learning now, but like I never was an anime person growing up. Like I was a Simpsons fanatic and a South Park fanatic. That's what lured me into animation. Now I'm like, okay, like I need to go back and do my history and stuff. But that's the reaction you gave is like how they're like, what? Like I'm producing a short right now that's like very anime heavy. The director like has deep knowledge of anime. And I'm like, all right, cool. Like that doesn't stop me from helping to be the producer on it. But like I have a lot of homework to do to really familiarize.
So I mean, I don't, because a lot of people don't, because like I said, it just became mainstream. So, because a lot of people really didn't get involved with anime to that degree. And it was like all of us that were, like I said, we got picked on for it. Now with like, what's his name? That's doing it. I see old age, you forgetting stuff. But everybody's like talking about it. Meg Stallion, she's rapping about it. She talks about it on some of her live streams and stuff. Michael B. Jordan, like even with Creed 3, like his fight scenes were like the Goku and Vegeta fight scenes and a lot of other fight scenes from anime and stuff. So now it's become more Lil Uzi Vert. He has some of his stuff is in like one of his music videos from his current album. He did one with his videos based after like Akira riding an Akira motorcycle and doing like the whole slide. So now it's become more mainstream. So when I talk to people and you haven't seen it before, believe me, I'm not judging y'all the way that we used to get judged. But no, I like to see it though, because I mean, anime is hot.
Yeah, but I would say my only, and it's very loose, but connection to anime has been the Boondocks. The Boondocks for me was like this, like it was like the intersection of adult animation, black adult animation, and anime. So I was like, all right, cool. I don't get down with anime, but like I can watch the Boondocks all day.
To me, that's anime because I loved him. I forget the writer's name. I loved his. I used to read the comic first.
Yeah.
Before he actually got production on it. So once he got production on it, I was super excited about that. And I'm excited to see that he is coming back too, because they're allowing him to pick up production rights again to where it's based on his own writing style, because he got booted out that last season, which ended up being trash.
Mm-hmm. Dang, I didn't know they were coming back again. That's great. I mean, so that's my man, I love me some Boondocks, man. That was like, oh my gosh. Black adult animation prior to that was like,
it was non-existent.
The PJs, remember that claymation show about Eddie Murphy?
That's like, well, I guess it's the same thing, because me and my kid debate about it, because my kid is a super anime nerd too, and we were talking about it the other day because people were saying anime and cartoons is not the same thing. He was like, well, technically it is, because anime is just a Japanese version of just cartoons. And I was like, yes, technically it is, but we don't want to believe that. So, but yeah, because we had Fat Albert.
That's not adult animation though.
You don't think
Was
so?
it? I don't know. I didn't watch enough Fat Albert. I actually referenced it this season, but like I thought it was like a Saturday morning kids show.
I mean, yeah, because back then you couldn't have. So do you understand the premise behind like Japanimation at all? Why they do it in Japan?
Yeah, and started out as like Ninja and stuff.
Yeah, because they couldn't, because they're so locked down. A lot of stuff that they do in animation, they can't do in actual live action like films and stuff. So they would have all the sex scenes and everything else. They would put it in animation because they didn't have any, laws banning against that. So, but for us, like we were heavily regulated, so we couldn't have our cartoons do anything that was horribly graphic. But yeah, I would consider Fat Albert like an adult animation because I mean people can relate to that because they were practically adults. But yeah, then when you got to the PJs, who were the PJs? I think it was a couple other ones. Those were adult.
Yeah. Yeah, man. So I don't know. I'm trying to. I mean, I got to learn up on some animation, but I think at the end of the day, I'm just trying to like really, regardless of like the style, I'm really just trying to with the second season, just try to like really put on for Black animation. Folks like Carl Jones, he's a big inspiration of mine. And Aaron Magruder, and I just want to continue to be a part of that. Like that's what I've been describing this season as, like this mixture of Rick and Morty meets Black Dynamite to some extent, but also like this is a show that I feel like people don't really know about, Mike Tyson Mysteries, which is hilarious.
Who don't know about Mike Tyson Mysteries?
I mean, if you sound like you got a deep knowledge, but like
yeah,
the public.
Him and his pigeon that talked all the time. Absolutely. That was funny. That was fun. Some funny stuff.
Yeah. Like Mike Tyson Mysteries hit for me. So I'm like, yo, like we need to do more of this.
Yeah.
And I just don't, like I don't see a lot of people like Black folks, particularly in this lane. It feels like it's like a very like white genre right now as adult animation. So I'm trying to like drive more folks to it,
I can agree with you, but I kind of feel the same way when it comes to tech. Like we work in it. Like I know some, my kid's a Black graphic. He's a graphic designer. But as far as like studios, no, because it's the same thing when it comes to business. Like you need the funding. I mean, similar to what you're doing. Like you need funding to actually for production and stuff. And animation, man, that's a lot of work. I mean, it's a lot, especially if you don't want to like do any CGI. You want to hand draw everything. That takes a lot of work. Like I said, the Black anime I've been supporting online. Like I have to send you the link for it. It's been pretty good, but the guy, he's been working on it for 2 years, and he just finished up his like 6th episode, and he's been on it for 2 years already. So there's a lot of work to go, which is probably why you don't see a lot of us working into stuff like that.
Yep.
But I'm excited for us to get into it now.
Yes, sir.
So what's next for Theo? So you're gonna do another season of Sirius Lee, or are you looking to get off into another project?
So what's next? So like right now you can see the second season of Sirius Lee on Quelly TV. It's called Sirius Lee and the Multiverse Mix-Up. There are only 5 episodes. So I need to complete production on the remaining 5 episodes. So I'm hoping over the next year to complete that, get that up online. I think part of that process is a very high likelihood that I'll be launching a crowdfunding campaign of some sort. I'm going to need to kind of, help get some funding from some other set revenue sources outside of just Quelly TV. So be on the lookout for a crowdfunding campaign for that. And then outside of like Sirius Lee, I'm really just focused on like trying to dip my hands into more animation projects. So I'm producing a short right now that I mentioned earlier, like through Pixar's co-op program. So I'm hoping that I'll also be getting some funding for that to get. It'll be like my prestige film that I'm helping to produce, which is like a little bit more like has a little bit more darker tones to it. So I'm hoping that short's called The Other Side. It's directed by a young writer out here named Eric Phillip. So helping trying to push on that. Then outside of that, like trying to push working with the Oakland Film Initiative to really try to push for more support of creative projects that are based in Oakland, either live action or animation projects. So that's something that I'm excited about, is just trying to connect with filmmakers like Boots Riley, W. Kamau Bell, Cheryl Dunier. They're all based here in Oakland and are looking to really try to push like for more legislation to open up filmmaking, because it's very cost prohibitive here in Oakland to film. Like a show like Showtime has a show called Blind Spotting that's based in Oakland, but they did most of the principal photography for that in LA because it was cheaper for them to recreate like a townhome in LA than it would for them to just simply like get the permitting to film it here in Oakland. So I want to help to open up, like, so there's less red tape, it's less cost of it's there's less deterrence based on like like getting permits and stuff to film here, and then open up like like if you actually have a production that's shot here in Oakland, that's a job creator. So I want to help to be a part of that movement, helping to get more filmmakers to film this stuff here, give more job access to jobs. And then like I want animation to be a part of that too, because the Bay Area is a hub for animation and gaming. Unfortunately, a lot of the folks that are in that industry don't look like myself, because it's so costly to get that training. There's only so many slots at these companies. They go to the biggest schools, recruit from there. So it's like, well, rather than going and bringing people from LA or from these big schools to Oakland, why don't we start to build that workforce of folks that are really like creating animation and gaming? Why don't we start to like train them and get them built up here? So I'm hoping to really be a part of that initiative, and I don't know, maybe a nonprofit, maybe an animation studio myself at some point, but those are some of the long-term goals that I have.
Okay. And where can people find your work at right now?
Yeah. So you can go to my website, theohollingsworth.com. You can see some samples of my previous work. You can get links to the Sirius Lee season 1 and 2. Some other web series and stuff that I've done as well are on there. My documentary. So yeah, that's the best place to see some of my stuff. And you can follow me on Instagram. Sirius Lee's Instagram is Sirius Lee, SIRIUSLEE_series. And then my personal Instagram is Teddy Ruxpin. I think it's Teddy_Ruxpin actually. But like the cartoon character, or like not the cartoon character, but the stuffed animal.
The stuffed animal, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, check me out there, or just like Google me, Theo Hollingsworth, and you'll be able to find all those links to all that stuff.
I'm ready for them to do a horror film on Teddy Ruxpin. That would be funny. All right, man. Thank you for coming on, brother. Actually, I appreciate the conversation.
I appreciate you, Antonio. Yeah, it was great connecting, and hopefully some of your fans enjoy the work.
Oh, absolutely. And then one thing I do ask all of my guests that come on is like, leave us, the crowd, with something positive, if you may.
Yeah. I mean, I think my whole career has just been about like not waiting for a green light to do the things that you're passionate about, right? Not waiting for like this credential or that credential. If you have an idea, don't hesitate to just start making it. And also don't let perfection be like the enemy of like completion, like just because I'll admit with this season of Sirius Lee, there's some imperfections in it, you know what I mean? But I'm like, you know what? Like that's just a stepping stone. So, don't be precious about it. Just get it out there. And it'll resonate with the right audiences. And yeah, so just do it, I guess.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I'm gonna piggyback off of that, because I mean, one thing I will say too, though, is like when you're trying to find yourself and find a career that you want to work in, for like the new people, there's new content creators or creatives, don't let the pressures of your family like push you into doing something that you don't love doing. Go for what you love, go for what you're passionate about, because that's the one thing that you can. It's hard to go through life and have regrets. So don't regret anything that you're doing. Go for what you love and be consistent about what you're doing. And then like Theo just said, once you get into it, use what you got. Like use a smartphone, use whatever you got to build and create the empire you want to create. Don't let anything hold you back, and don't let anybody tell you no. It's out there, it's ready for you to grab. All you got to do is just be consistent about it and just go and get it. So thank y'all for tuning in for this week's episode in this series on Westward Bound. Thank you, Theo, for coming on again for episode number 2. Y'all can find me on PTGtv.online. And make sure you go check out last week's episode where I interviewed Rob Young, especially when he's talking about deported veterans, something I had never heard before and something that I'm really going to help advocate on, is like to bring all of our veterans back home. So love you guys. Y'all stay safe. It's Antonio, PTGtv.